So another poem I have here to read is called I Am a Tree. I spread my toes as wide as I can, willing my feet to take root. I am a tree, I say silently, straightening my trunk, my heart wood. Assiduously still and grounded, I work the magic of purifying air. I breathe in, dirty. I breathe out, clean. I do it through my pores. No one can see it. My mother taught me to deck out in flames, a red party dress, celebration, her cycle complete, of labor from bud to full leaf, now splendid, given without expectation. Then gray skies grow closer and blood sap runs colder. Being deciduous, I will undress for winter and bare my bones to its teeth.
Wow, that's a powerful poem. What visuals in there?
Yeah, I'm back in Maine for sure.
I'd say so. But it definitely has the tooth of New York City in there. That had some amazing grit.
Hmm.
But I felt Maine through and through as you were reading it.
Yeah.
As I am currently in exile, as you know, in Wisconsin. I'd like to know at what point you sort of adopted the identity of being a poet. I know as an artist, I think of myself as like a photographer. I've been a photographer
Mhm.
for years. And when I started writing, it's very difficult to say, oh, I'm a writer. At what point do we adopt certain identities? And your your identity as a visual artist was very strong and very solid. At what point did you either surrender to the idea that you were a poet or put on the mantle, adopt the mantle? Talk about that process for yourself.
Hmm. Well, I think that I was very I think the fact that I was published in Balancing Act 2 was a profound part of adopting the mantle because it gave me such a feeling of an entry into the community of poets in Maine. I I can't I think I spoke about it before, but I'll stress it again. Um, that moment, that opening for that book was such a profound experience. And I've talked with other poets about it, that it was such a warm night of energy and sharing and inclusiveness, um, that it still, resounds in my heart, and I go back to that book again and again, and read people's work that I'm still in contact with and, consider friends. Um, and I think that being that this sense of connectedness and um, the connection between people is so vital to myself as an artist, and you know as a person, at heart. um, I don't know, if I had just been home by myself without uh, that experience among the other experiences, like with the poetry group at the library and with other MWPA experiences. I don't know that if I was in a vacuum in a room by myself, if I would have experienced it the same way, because it's part and parcel of it is being part of the community of poetry. And, that was true for me before as an artist as well, you know. So I think that, if I take that piece out, I can't quite imagine it, you know. And at the same time, I didn't have a choice, so that made it different. Like if the brain tumor had never happened, would I have switched? Who can say? Would I have gotten arthritis in my hands and had to switch because of that? Who knows? No one can say. But I've always loved words and reading, so maybe I would have done this anyway.
And you've become a part of another community.
Yes,
Of this.
I seem to find communities wherever I go.
Which
And
totally goes back to your visual artwork, because it was all about interconnectivity. It was all about
exactly
and threads. Yeah.
Yes. And so another one that I found that has given me a lot to write about is the walking community, which when you're in a large city, everybody walks. So no big deal. But when you're in a very rural, small town, most people are in their cars, in fact, vying for the space that's closest to the door, in fact. I mean, spending as little time outside as possible. And if you can't drive, then you are noted as being someone who walks. I am known as, the younger person with the cane, and there's a older woman with a cane, and there's
That's interesting.
there's the guy that always wears the reflective vest. There's it's a handful of people, and there is one person that walks a lot but also skateboards, and who doesn't really talk. And I developed a really interesting relationship, with all of these people. But I ended up writing, I think about 50 or 60 poems about my intersections with this one skateboard rider, because we always would meet up, like in a way that was far beyond circumstantial. So if you'd like, I have several of the ones from the series.
Let's hear some.
Okay. Well, the first one was the first time, and these were actually started right after my, when I first started writing, and was pretty, I felt very invisible at the time because of not being able to drive and not really feeling all that steady, on my feet with the cane either. So the first one is, and they're all called To and Fro, because there were only so many places you could go in our town, and so the fact that we would always meet up was extraordinary. So the first one is To and Fro, number one. Black cane and I make slow way on upward grade sidewalk slight, breaking from forward progress and vigilant minding of cracks and stone, unsure what has become of my great grandfather's house. A notice of danger on one dusty window, and others are broken shards, and there, beware of dogs. I reflect, mouth open, face upward. Was I driven past the same yesterday? lazy and unchanging, the mellow sound of a coasting skateboard making its slow way closer in downward grade roadside slight, its thin, chill rider relaxed in a beautiful S. He is in the fullness of life, beautiful. I stare, accustomed to invisibility, yet he tilts his chin toward me, eyes half closed, raises a cool, lazy hand. I tilt my chin in return and say softly, hey. And the next one that I'll read is number 4. I am pointed home down the slight grade, my arms as heavy as handcuffed, caning and weighted with Monday's mail, plastic bag bottom, brushing concrete, white sun, blue sky, a vacuum, then bounding and mad, 3 crazed dogs leap, fence-free, chains hidden, I halt still as stone, dogs cease before me, and from behind, wheels turn and fill my ears like tiny waterfalls. I no more than turn from the 3 than to see his continuing descent, sleeves pushed up, no backward eye. He had been on my side against the flow, an oddity though, and very slow. Was this a code, a sign for me? Protection, flight, or fancy? And then the last, number 14, I'll say. You perform for me. Awareness and silence are mutual necessity. Flipping magnets we feed on and ward off. Strike poses like matches. Catch glances like cobras with hoods. Outside apart, inside apart. Rust covered. Half buried from disuse. I sometimes sense provoking tides of your fury. And that's all I'll read for today.
I appreciate that. That last one was that also inspired by your interaction?
Yeah, I have probably a book of poems about those interactions.
Does
And
this particular person know that they're an inspiration for you? I mean, have you ever?
I don't know. I don't know. They seem to be going through their own difficulties. But it's been interesting. And most of the time, you know, I'm not aware of how much I'm a focal point for people as a walker, you know, because I can't see inside the cars as they're zooming by, you know, what to my senses, it appears they're going by like 80 miles an hour. Really, they're probably going 20.
Where
But
are you walking in Wilton? I mean, are you walking down, like, do you live in town, or is there?
well, more or less.
I'm just imagining you walking down like a sort of a rural, the median of a rural road as these cars
Yeah.
are passing by.
And there's most of it's sidewalk,
Yeah.
but you know, it's uneven. And but there's, you know, yeah, it's mostly in town, but it's such a small town that it's all relative. But it's so funny because people will tell me later, like, oh yeah, I saw you walking. Oh yeah, you're the lady that walks with the cane. You know, I'll meet people at things later. And I mean, of course I have no idea. And I feel like, you know, I don't feel like I'm, have neon signs saying, she's the lady that walks with the cane. But yeah, it's a very different world to not be able to drive.
Talk about some of these other connections that you have with like poetry groups. When we first started, you said that you realized that there was an acronym or some sort of a title now that's been adopted or something like that. Like what
Oh,
would
for
you?
neurodiverse
Ah,
poet, yeah, neurodiverse seems to be the I don't know if it's the politically correct term for people with some kind of brain injury or brain trauma, or perhaps mental illness, or I'm not sure what it all encompasses, but
and the
like
diversity, maybe hence the diverse part of neurodiversity.
yeah,
It encompasses a lot. Is there a
yeah.
community of artists that are neurodiverse and that of which you are a part, or?
Well, I didn't think there was, but when they had the small press trade show, or I forget the name of it, but Jefferson Nowicki went to it and shared the link that you could go virtually and see, just explore all of the hundreds of small presses that there are out there. There were several that were devoted to neurodiverse poets, which was the first that I knew that there was such a thing. And several journals have opened special issues that are devoted to neurodiverse poets, that that they want to um, make sure that they're being inclusive of neurodiverse poets. So it's I guess that it's becoming prevalent enough that it's becoming a subset of the culture, which is interesting to me. And like anybody else, with any other label, whether it's gender or sexual preference or, race, it's kind of something that I have some ambivalence about. On the one hand, it's um, important to me to think that there's some recognition that people with neurodiversity can do these things and be successful. And I feel that my ability to do um, to compete in a regular poetry world is, if it can be an inspiration, I'm happy for that. And flip side, that being in the regular world, is also, I feel like a sense of um, responsibility to speak for the people, that also have brain injury. But, it's a kind of a double-edged sword. You're also being potentially looked at differently. Are you,
Singled
you
out
know,
for.
yeah, are you being given special privilege? Are you, um, you know, all the things that any other kind of label, you know, the attachments that come with it? Are you going to be looked over because of it? Are you going to be looked down on because of it? Are you going to be given special, it's kind of interesting to realize, like, when you make some feature of yourself public, that it comes with kind of mixed feelings. And I've never really had anything, as a white woman, I don't really feel like I've been in that position before, you know, doing this, doing this, changing lanes, and all of a sudden, people are like, oh, so interested about your story, and it's like, okay, I hope you're also still interested in my poetry.
Well, that's the thing. You want to, I hear what you say about representing. You want to represent. At the same time, you have no less rigor as an artist that you had before. And that's the demands that you have on yourself there. I hear in you, and I would expect, knowing you, that those would not be any less.
Correct. Yeah.
Those were not affected by the tumor at all. So in fact, it was a point of frustration from what I hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just another way that I've learned and grown, I feel, through the experiences. I mean, every nurse that I've known that has gone through the experience of being a patient feels like they're a better nurse, for having gone through the patient experience. And, so similarly, I feel like I'm a better artist in a way. Artist, meaning art, any kind of art, whether it's writing or visual art, for having gone through a traumatic experience with the tumor.
What's next for you, Nancy? That's a good place to leave. By the way, Joe jumped up when you were reading. He was very interested. He was really listening to you read as much as I was. There was something about your voice that attracted him.
Cats are definitely the best critics. So
you've got a fan. So what's next for
you? Well, hopefully getting work together, for a collection. That's my goal. And just to keep writing and learning, from everybody and everywhere, and just striving to get better and be as much a help and to take every day for what it can bring, and what I can give to the community around me, and try to capture that in a way that can be of use, to whoever, I feel like what I have to give at this point in time is my listening and my, hopefully, something that I say. and if I can be of use to anyone, by doing either of the above, then that's a good day.
How about being how about inspiring people?
Yeah.
Being inspiration.
If I can do that, then that's even better, or equally as good.
Terrific.
And just bringing the joy of being part of an ordinary day and making it a little better and a little kinder, in a world that's so fraught. And lest we not forget, trying to save the planet. I will do anything I can to do that. That's in my spare time.
Well, I think you're doing a wonderful job, and I'm glad that we had a chance to pick this up after the rather ironic, truly bizarre circumstances that led us here today.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, I'm just ever grateful to you, and also to Littorally Alive, the programming, since it brings opportunity all over the state as well as in Portland, and and to Agnes and Jim and Littoral Books for all they do to, bring writers out into the world with their beautiful books. It's just such a gift.
Thank you for doing my job for me. That was actually better than I could have done. I wanted to remind people to go to literalbooks.com to pick up, you're in Balancing Act 2,
Yeah.
but you're also in another, are you in another?
Yes, I'm in, oh no,
Uh-oh.
I'm in,
Dangerous.
Enough,
Oh, enough.
Enough,
Yeah.
yes.
All of which you can get on literalbooks.com. Purchase
Yes.
those online. And
Yes.
we'll look forward to seeing you at the next show.
Indeed.
Thank you, Nancy. This was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert. I hope to see you soon.
We'll see each other.